God fucking damn it. E3 2022. It's gone, it's no more. This is the third year in a row now that E3 has been really impacted by everything that's going on. And at this point, things are getting worrying. Obviously, to go back in time, 2020, very obvious reasons. Okay, E3 was cancelled. Literally everything else that year was cancelled. Fair enough, that was to be to expected. It was unfortunate, but what can you do? Last year, E3 2021, cancelled in person again, but we did get a digital show, which most of the company's presentations last year were very lackluster. But Nintendo in particular, they saved the day. Nintendo had a stunning E3. And yes, I am biased, but it was one of the best E3s ever because of Metroid Dread. That one game alone made just everything worth it. So Nintendo had a spectacular E3, but most people didn't. But that's besides the point. E3 happened digitally last year, and we presumed, because they managed to come back after the pandemic, that they'd be back again this year. When it did happen in 2020, there was a lot of panic around E3 would be finished and would never come back. But the fact they came back in 2021, albeit in the digital form, showed that there's still life in E3. And then we come to this year and we were expecting a live show because the Game Awards last year, the Game Awards 2021, they had an in-person show. So I don't know about you, but me for sure, I was definitely expecting E3 to come back in person this year. Because if the Game Awards can come back in person in December, why can't E3 come back in person in summer, several months later? It doesn't make sense to me, to be completely honest, but they cancelled the physical show. I was disappointed, but at least we still had a digital show. I was looking forward to that, and right before this news, I was getting ready to make a predictions and theory video for E3, and then suddenly we get the news that it's cancelled. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys here. I'm very disappointed and bummed out by this because the cancellation of E3 doesn't make any sense to me. I can't understand why you would cancel the digital show. The only thing seems to be, from what people are telling me, is because the E3 couldn't get anyone that was interested, and these shows are very expensive to put on, and not enough people were into it, so they had to cancel. Okay, but you were still able to go ahead last year, so that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The big caveat to this is Summer Games Fest, which started in 2020, which explains why I'd never heard of it before then. But Summer Games Fest, it's Jeff Keighley's show. Jeff Keighley, as you may know, is the presenter and host of the Game Awards. It's his own E3, essentially, that he holds, I believe, throughout all of summer. Its first year was in 2020, and everyone attended. It was a digital show, and it still is, where it wasn't even so much as its own show as it was more of an association thing. Every company did their own presentations. Even Nintendo, I think, Nintendo's Treehouse in 2020 was associated with the Summer Games Fest. So companies would hold their own, personal digital shows like Nintendo Directs, Sony State of Plays and all that, but they would be associated and in collaboration with Summer Games Fest, and so looped in with that whole sort of thing. I think that's how it works. I'm not 100% certain on the matter, but from looking at the website, that's the impression I get. And it worked out. They had huge success that year. And then 2021 was apparently even more successful. I didn't pay any attention to it. I'm a Nintendo fan primarily, so my interest was at E3. But E3 is not happening this year. And instead, all of the companies that would be at E3 are now signed up for Summer Games Fest. Besides Nintendo so far, everyone else is signed up for Summer Games Fest. So what does this say about the future of summer presentations and announcements for the games industry? What does it say about E3's future? It's so weird to me. Is this the end of E3? I know there's a lot of controversies and people have a lot of strong opinions about E3, but maybe it's my bias as a Nintendo fan, but E3 has been a really special time. Every year. It has been summer Christmas For me as a gamer, it has been Christmas every year. So many exciting announcements over the years, a lot of disappointing ones as well. But E3 is a special time, especially when you see all the live in person booths and celebrations they used to be able to do, or when you look back on older years and get to see past announcements like Golden Sun, Dark Dawn, or Zelda Twilight Princess, or the reveal of the Wii and the 3DS, all of these sort of things. Like, E3 becomes really special for that reason. And to think that we might not have that anymore, that's pretty depressing to me. It's because that's what summer has been about. Sure, I guess Summer Games Fest could fill that void, and I like Jeff Keighley a lot. I admire the man. He clearly has a lot of passion for what he does. My criticisms about some of the choices around the Game Awards aside, Jeff is a really great presenter. He knows what he's doing, and he's having fun, and it comes across, and we can tell. So I have no problem watching Jeff Keighley himself, but I just don't know if his show can really hold up to what E3 has done. And if Nintendo doesn't align itself with Summer Games Fest this year, where does that leave them? Because everyone else will have these big shows, sure, but what about Nintendo? Sure, I'm sure they'll still do their own direct, probably, but they didn't do one in 2020, and that's my biggest fear. I am scared that we're going back to 2020 where we didn't have announcements, big exciting presentations. We had shadow drops. You'd wake up one morning and, oh, here's a new Paper Mario and it's coming out like 2 months later. Here's a port of Pikmin 3, I don't want that. That stuff is not exciting. It kind of ruins the surprise. I love just sitting through these presentations, getting all the exciting information at once, and then sorting through it afterward. Because if you're just stretching things out over the summer, it feels dragged out. It kind of feels disappointing. And that was the big criticism I remember Summer Games Fest received, that it dragged on into like September. The announcements were going for months, well past the summer, and it was getting exhausting. I don't want that this year. I want everything streamlined in the summer. And the thing with Summer Games Fest is, as the name implies, throughout all of summer. At least E3 is, and this comes down to personal preference obviously, but at least with E3 it's a couple of days in June. You get all your exciting announcements and then you can talk about that for like the next 6 months. That's what I like about E3. I get all the information in one place. Whereas with something like this, you're still sort of jumping around between presentations and stuff. And maybe I'm not giving Jeff Keighley enough credit. But again, like, Jeff Keighley's part of it is only one element. He does this introductory live stream and then he sometimes does interviews and discussions with developers for demos and stuff, but it's primarily each company's own presentation from that point on. So the Summer Games Fest is very superfluous in that sense. Granted, this is all digital. Summer Games Fest hasn't had the chance to hold an in-person event yet. So next year, if they can hold an in-person event, maybe the entire show changes and maybe it becomes what E3 should have been. And if Nintendo joins on board, then Jeff Keighley will literally have brought everyone in the industry together in one place. And, gotta give him credit on that. Will I watch Summer Games Fest this year? I suppose I might as well. E3 is not happening. Nintendo will probably do a direct. I don't know, to be honest. Probably. But I suppose I'll still check out Jeff Keighley's show just for the sake of it. But what about the future of E3? What happens now? The ESA said they're already planning and rearranging to come back hard with an incredible in-person showcase in 2023. But is the damage done? 2023 will have been 4 years since we last had a proper in-person E3 event. And at that point, we'll have had 3 years of Summer Games Fest and people getting used to companies doing announcements on their own. I'm one of the people who have said that the industry needs E3. But if Summer Games Fest really takes off this year, then I don't know. To be honest, E3, this could be it for E3. It could happen next year, sure, and maybe it will, but will they get the right viewers? Will companies even be interested? Will we have a repeat of this year? I'm kind of under the impression that next year will be measly and E3 will kind of just peter out as Summer Games Fest gets everything that you would have had at E3. Nintendo seem to be the last ones that are supporting E3. And they haven't even had an in-person E3 event since 2013. So Nintendo is going down with that ship, it seems. And it's sad to see. I will miss E3. All the incredible announcements over the years, even if I wasn't around to be there for all of them. Obviously I was around for them, but I wasn't into gaming like I was now. I wasn't looking at news and keeping up to date and watching E3 shows. I only started that in 2013. So to be here almost 10 years later and have that come to an end, it's pretty sad for me, but I digress. What happens now? I'm sure we'll still get the Nintendo Summer Direct. I was going to do predictions in this video. Originally this was going to be an E3 video as well, but I guess I might as well save that for another point because this has dragged out long enough. But anyways, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Are you disappointed E3 is not happening this year? Do you think E3 can be saved, or do you think this is it? Do you think Summer Games Fest will take off? What do you think of Jeff Keighley? Will Nintendo align themselves with him again? What will Nintendo do? Will we have a repeat of 2020, or will this year be an exciting summer of announcements? I want to hear everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novus Corvius out.